My dear sisters, there was a time when she felt like her emotions controlled her life. A small comment would ruin her entire day. A moment of anger would lead to regret. And later she would sit alone wondering, why did I react like that? But one day she decided something had to change. She realized that strength is not in reacting loudly, but in controlling yourself when your heart is on fire. The first habit she learned was to pause. Not every situation deserves an immediate reaction. Sometimes the most powerful response is silence. Because when you pause, you give your heart time to calm down and your mind time to think clearly. The second habit was turning to Allah before anything else. Instead of pouring her frustration onto people, she raised her hands and made dua. She whispered her pain to the one who understands it completely. And slowly she felt peace replacing anger. The third habit was choosing her response carefully. She understood something powerful. Emotions are not sins, but actions can be. So even if she felt hurt, she trained herself to respond with dignity instead of reaction. And the fourth habit was patience. Real patience is not just waiting, it is controlling yourself while you wait. It is holding back harsh words when you're upset. It is staying calm when everything inside you wants to explode. And through these habits, she changed. Not overnight, but step by step. She became someone who didn't let anger lead her, someone who didn't let sadness break her, someone who trusted that every test was shaping her. Remember this, the strongest person is not the one who can overpower others, but the one who can overpower their own emotions. So when you feel overwhelmed, pause. When you feel hurt, turn to Allah. When you feel angry, choose your response wisely. And in every situation, hold on to patience, because the one who controls themselves is the one who is truly free. May Allah grant us calm hearts, wise tongues, and the strength to control our emotions. Ameen. There are moments in life when emotions rise so quickly that they feel impossible to control. A single word, a small action, or even a misunderstanding can ignite anger, sadness, or frustration within seconds. In those moments, the instinct is to react immediately, to respond, to defend, to release whatever is boiling inside. But this is exactly where the real test lies. The ability to pause even for a few seconds can completely change the outcome of a situation. When a person trains themselves to pause before reacting, they are not suppressing their emotions. Rather, they are giving themselves the space to respond with wisdom instead of impulse. That brief moment of silence is powerful. It creates a gap between feeling and action. And in that gap lies control. Without it, emotions take over and decisions are made in haste, often followed by regret. Think about how many times a quick reaction has led to words that cannot be taken back. A harsh reply, a raised voice, or a message sent in anger can damage relationships in ways that take a long time to repair. Yet if there had been a pause, just a few seconds to breathe, to reflect, those same situations could have ended with calmness and dignity. The pause protects you from becoming a prisoner of your emotions. This practice is not easy, especially in the beginning. When emotions are intense, silence can feel uncomfortable. The heart races, the mind fills with arguments, and everything inside pushes you to react. But this is where strength is built. Real strength is not in expressing every feeling instantly. It is in holding back when necessary. It is in choosing not to let a temporary emotion lead to a permanent consequence. Pausing also allows a person to remember Allah in that critical moment. Instead of reacting in anger, one can quietly seek help, even if it is just a simple thought or a short dua. This shifts the focus from the situation to the one who controls all situations. And when the heart turns to Him, calmness begins to settle in ways that cannot be explained. Over time, this habit transforms a person's situations that once triggered immediate reactions no longer have the same effect. The person becomes more composed, more thoughtful, and more aware of their actions. Others begin to notice the difference. They see someone who does not get easily provoked, someone who responds with patience rather than anger. This kind of character is not built overnight. It is the result of consistently choosing to pause again and again. It is important to understand that pausing does not mean ignoring problems or avoiding difficult conversations. It simply means approaching them in the right state of mind. When you give yourself time to calm down, you are more likely to speak in a way that brings solutions instead of creating more conflict. you are more likely to listen, to understand, and to respond with fairness. Every time you successfully pause instead of reacting, you strengthen your ability to control yourself. And every time you fail, it is an opportunity to learn and try again. Growth comes from persistence, not perfection. What matters is the intention to improve and the effort to change. In the end, that small habit of pausing becomes a shield. It protects your peace, your relationships, and your dignity. It turns moments of weakness into opportunities for strength. And most importantly, it brings you closer to becoming someone who is in control, not of the world around them, but of themselves. There are times when the heart feels heavy, overwhelmed by emotions that seem too professor, and overwhelmed by emotions that seem too professor. Difficult to carry. In those moments, people often look for an outlet. They turn to friends, to social media, or to anyone who will listen. While there is nothing wrong with seeking support, there is something far more powerful that many forget: the ability to turn to Allah first before turning to anyone else. When a person makes this a habit, it changes everything. Instead of reacting outwardly at the peak of emotion, they begin by looking upward. They realize that the one who created their heart fully understands what it is going through. No explanation is needed. No perfect words are required. Even the feelings that cannot be expressed are known to him. Turning to Allah in emotional moments brings a unique kind of relief. People may listen, but they may not always understand. They may comfort, but they may not always have the right words. But Allah knows the depth of every pain, the cause behind every tear, and the thoughts that remain hidden. When you raise your hands and make dua, you are not just speaking, you are releasing your burden to the one who is scattered over all things. This habit also creates a sense of calm before action. When emotions are high, reactions tend to be impulsive. But when a person pauses and turns to Allah, even briefly, their state begins to shift. A simple "Ya Allah, guide me" can soften the heart. A quiet moment of dhikr can slow down racing thoughts, and suddenly what felt overwhelming becomes manageable. It is not about long, complicated supplications. Sometimes the most sincere du'as are the simplest ones. A whisper in your heart, a tear that falls in silence, or a moment where you close your eyes and seek strength. These are all forms of turning to Allah. And these moments have a profound impact. They reconnect you to your purpose and remind you that you are never alone in what you are facing. Over time, this practice builds immunity, overall resilience. Instead of depending entirely on people to feel better, a person develops a direct connection with their Creator. This connection becomes a source of stability. No matter what happens around them, they know where to turn first. And that certainty brings peace. It also protects a person from reacting in ways they might regret. When you take your emotions to Allah before expressing them to others, you filter your response. Anger becomes controlled, sadness becomes dignified, and frustration becomes patience. You begin to respond with awareness rather than impulse. There is also a beautiful sense of trust that develops through this habit. When you consistently turn to Allah, you begin to believe that every situation has a purpose. Even the difficult moments are not seen as random or meaningless. They are understood as part of a greater plan, one that is designed with wisdom. This belief makes it easier to handle emotions because you are no longer just reacting to events. You are trusting the one who allowed them to happen. And sometimes the answer to your dua is not an immediate change in your situation, but a change within you. A calmness you did not have before, a strength you did not know you possessed, or a clarity that helps you see things differently. This is one of the greatest gifts, to feel your heart settle even when the problem remains. Making this a habit requires consistency. It means reminding yourself again and again to turn to Allah first, especially when it feels difficult. At first, you may forget, you may react before you remember, but with effort, it becomes natural. It becomes your first response instead of your last option. In the end, turning to Allah first is not just about managing emotions. It is about strengthening your relationship with Him. It is about recognizing that He is always harbor, always listening, and always qadrid to help. And when a person truly understands this, they find a kind of peace that nothing in this world can replace. Emotions are a natural part of being human. They come without permission and often arrive with intensity. A person may feel anger rising in their chest, sadness weighing down their heart, or frustration clouding their thoughts. these feelings are not sinful in themselves. They are simply part of the way we are created. But what truly defines a person is not what they feel. It is what they choose to do with those feelings. There is a powerful difference between emotion and response. There is a powerful difference between emotion and response. Emotions are automatic, but responses are decisions. This means that even when you cannot control how you feel in a moment, you still have control over how you act. And this understanding is life-changing. It shifts a person from feeling helpless under their emotions to realizing they have authority over their behavior. When someone learns to choose their response instead of being driven by emotion, they begin to take ownership of their actions. For example, anger may arise quickly, especially in situations of dhulm or disrespect. The heart reacts, the body tenses, and the urge to respond harshly becomes strong. But in that moment, a person who has trained themselves will recognize the feeling without allowing it to dictate their words. They may still feel angry, but they choose silence or they speak with restraint. That choice protects them from regret. Many of the biggest mistakes in life happen not because of what we felt, but because of how we reacted. A single emotional outburst can damage relationships, break trust, and leave lasting etara. Yet, if a person had paused and consciously chosen a different response, the outcome could have been completely different. This is why controlling actions is far more important than trying to eliminate emotions. Choosing your response also requires awareness. You must be able to recognize what you are feeling in the moment. Instead of being consumed by it, you step back internally and say, I am feeling angry right now, or I am hurt. This awareness creates distance between you and the emotion. And in that space, you gain the ability to decide what comes next. It also helps to remember that every action has consequences, both in this life and in the hereafter. Words spoken in anger cannot be taken back. Actions done in frustration may have long-term effects. When a person keeps this in mind, they become more careful. They begin to weigh their responses, not just based on how they feel, but based on what is right. This habit does not mean becoming emotionless or cold. It means becoming balanced. It means allowing yourself to feel, but not letting those feelings control your behavior. A person can feel deeply and still act wisely. In fact, true strength lies in this balance to have emotions yet remain in control of them. Over time, consistently choosing your response builds strong character. People begin to trust you more because they know you are not unpredictable. They feel safe around you because you do not react impulsively. And within yourself, you feel a sense of stability. You are no longer at the mercy of every emotion that passes through you. There will still be moments of dafaf, times when emotions are too strong and a person reacts in a way they later regret. But even these moments are part of the journey. What matters is learning from them, seeking forgiveness and striving to do better next time. Growth is not about never making mistakes. It is about reducing them and improving with every experience. Choosing your response also brings a deeper sense of dignity. You are no longer reacting based on others' behavior. You are acting based on your own values. Someone may be rude, unfair, or hurtful, but your response remains controlled and principled. This is a sign of inner strength. In the end, emotions will always be part of life. They will come and go, sometimes gently and sometimes like a storm. But the person who learns to choose their response becomes like someone anchored in place. The waves may crash around them, but they are not swept away. They remain steady, composed, and in control, not because they do not feel, but because they have learned how to act despite what they feel. Patience is often spoken about, but rarely understood in its true depth. Many think of patience as simply waiting quietly for something to change, but in reality, it is much more than that. Patience is an active state of the heart. It is a sayatra over oneself when emotions are intense, when situations are difficult, and when the outcome is uncertain. It is not just about enduring the moment, but about how you carry yourself within that moment. Every day presents opportunities to practice patience. It is not limited to big trials or life-changing events. In fact, patience is built in the small, unnoticed moments. It is in holding back a sharp reply when someone speaks harshly. It is in staying calm when things do not go as planned. It is in choosing not to complain when you are tired, frustrated, or disappointed. These small acts may seem insignificant, but they shape the heart over time. When a person commits to practicing patience daily, they begin to develop a kind of inner strength that cannot be shaken easily. Situations that once triggered immediate reactions no longer have the same effect. The heart becomes more steady, less reactive, and more focused on what is right rather than what feels satisfying in the moment. This transformation does not happen overnight. It comes through consistency, through choosing patience again and again, even when it feels difficult. One of the greatest aspects of patience is that it is closely connected to trust in Allah. When you are patient, you are not just holding yourself back. You are believing that there is wisdom in what is happening. You are trusting that every delay, every difficulty, and every act below is part of a greater plan. This belief makes patience easier because you are not just enduring hardship, you are seeing purpose in it. There are different forms of patience that a person practices throughout life. There is patience in obedience, where you remain consistent in doing what is right even when it is challenging. There is patience in avoiding wrong actions, where you resist temptations and control your desires. And there is patience in facing hardships, where you remain firm and composed despite difficulties. All of these require effort, but all of them bring immense reward. Practicing patience also means accepting that not everything will go your way. There will be delays, disappointments, and moments where things fall apart despite your efforts. In those times, it is easy to become frustrated or lose hope. But patience teaches you to remain grounded. It reminds you that outcomes are not always in your control, but your reaction always is. It is important to understand that patience does not mean weakness. It does not mean allowing zalam or staying silent in the face of injustice when action is required. Rather, it means responding in the right way, at the right time, with the right mindset. A patient person is not passive, they are controlled. They act with wisdom instead of reacting with emotion. As this habit grows, it begins to influence every part of a person's life. Relationships improve because there is less conflict and more understanding. Decisions become wiser because they are not rushed. The heart feels lighter because it is not constantly overwhelmed by every small inconvenience. Patience brings a sense of peace that is difficult to describe but easy to feel. There will be moments when patience feels heavy, when holding back feels harder than reacting, and when staying calm feels almost impossible. But these are the moments that matter the most. Each time you choose patience in difficulty, you strengthen your ability to do it again. Each time you resist the urge to react, you build control over yourself. And when you look back, you begin to see the results. Situations that once caused stress no longer disturb you in the same way. You become more composed, more thoughtful, and more aware of your actions. This is the beauty of patience. It quietly transforms you from within. In the end, patience is not just a response to hardship. It is a way of living. It is a daily commitment to control yourself, to trust Allah, and to act with wisdom no matter what you are facing. And through this consistency, a person develops a strength that is not loud or visible, but deeply rooted and unshakable. The tongue is small, yet its impact is avim. A few words can lift someone's heart, bring peace to a tense situation, or strengthen a relationship. At the same time, a few careless words can break trust, create distance, and leave wounds that take a long time to heal. This is why guarding the tongue is not a minor habit. It is a powerful form of self-control that reflects what is truly in the heart. In moments of strong emotion, the tongue becomes one of the quickest tools through which feelings are expressed. When anger rises, harsh words come easily. When hurt is felt, the urge to respond sharply feels justified. But this is exactly where the test lies. Not every feeling deserves to be spoken, and not every thought needs to be expressed. Wisdom is knowing when to speak and when to remain silent. A person who learns to guard the period. Their tongue understands that words once released cannot be taken back. Apologies may follow, but the ether of those words can remain. This awareness creates a sense of caution. Before speaking, they begin to think, is what I am about to say beneficial? Is it necessary? Will it bring care or harm? This simple pause before speaking can prevent countless mashakil. Guarding the tongue does not mean staying silent all the time. It means speaking with purpose. It means choosing words that are truthful, kind, and appropriate for the situation. There are times when speaking is necessary to stand up for what is right, to advise, or to express feelings. But even then, the manner of speech matters. A gentle word can reach where a harsh one cannot. In daily life, many conflicts are not caused by the situation itself, but by how people speak to each other. The tone, the choice of words, and the timing all play a role. A person may be right in what they are saying, but if it is delivered harshly, it can lead to rejection and tension. On the other hand, the same message delivered with kindness can bring understanding and acceptance. This shows that controlling the tongue is not just about avoiding harm, it is also about creating goodness. There is also a connection between the heart and the tongue. What fills the heart eventually appears in speech. If the heart is filled with anger, negativity, or word, it will reflect in words. But if it is filled with patience, humility, and sincerity, the tongue will naturally speak in a way that reflects those qualities. This is why guarding the tongue also requires working on the heart. In emotional situations, silence can sometimes be the best response. Not every argument needs to be won, and not every comment needs a reply. Choosing silence in such moments is not dafa. Choosing silence in such moments is not dafa. It is control. It prevents escalation and allows time for emotions to settle. Often, what feels urgent to say in the heat of the moment becomes unnecessary later. This habit also builds respect. People feel safe around someone who does not speak carelessly. They trust that their words will not be used against them and that conversations will remain respectful even in disagreement. This kind of character attracts people and strengthens relationships in a natural way. However, guarding the tongue is not always easy. There will be moments when words slip out, when emotions take over, and when regret follows. In those moments, it is important to take responsibility, seek forgiveness, and make a conscious effort to improve. Each mistake becomes a lesson, and each lesson brings growth. Over time, as this habit develops, a person becomes more thoughtful in their speech. They speak less, but their words carry more value. They avoid unnecessary arguments, backbiting, and al-kalam alladhi la faida fih. Their presence becomes calming because they do not add fuel to tension. They reduce it. In the end, the tongue can either be a source of reward or a cause of regret. It has the power to build or to destroy, to heal or to harm. A person who learns to guard it gains control over one of the most influential parts of their behavior. And through this control, they not only protect others from harm, but they also protect their own peace, dignity, and accountability before Allah. Every person wants to grow, to become better than they were yesterday. But real growth does not happen by chance. It requires reflection, an honest look at oneself, one's actions, and one's reactions. Without reflection, a person can continue repeating the same mistakes, unaware of the patterns that are holding them back. But when someone takes the time to pause and evaluate themselves, they begin to see clearly what needs to change. Reflection is not about being overly critical or harsh on oneself. It is about being truthful. It is the ability to sit with your thoughts and ask, why did I react that way? What could I have done better? What triggered that emotion? These questions are not meant to bring guilt, but to bring awareness. And awareness is the first step toward improvement. At the end of a day, a person may recall moments where emotions took over, perhaps a situation where anger led to harsh words or where impatience caused unnecessary tension. Instead of ignoring these moments or blaming others, reflection encourages taking responsibility, not for everything that happened, but for one's own response within it. This shift in mindset is powerful because it places control back in your hands. When a person reflects regularly, they begin to recognize patterns. They notice what situations trigger them the most, what kind of words affect them deeply, and how they tend to react under pressure. This understanding allows them to prepare. The next time a similar situation arises, they are not caught off guard. They are more aware, more cautious, and more capable of responding differently. Self-accountability is a key part of this process. It means holding yourself responsible even when it is easier to justify your actions. It is easy to say, I reacted that way because they provoked me, or anyone would have done the same. But growth begins when you say, I could have handled that better. This does not mean others are always right. It simply means you are focused on improving yourself rather than being stuck in excuses. There is also a strong spiritual element in reflection. A person who reflects remembers that Allah is aware of every action, every word, and even every intention. This awareness brings sincerity. It encourages a person to improve, not just for the sake of people, but for the sake of pleasing Allah. It turns self-improvement into an act of worship. Reflection also helps in appreciating progress. Often, people focus only on what they have not achieved, forgetting how far they have come. When you reflect, you begin to notice the changes within yourself. Situations that once overwhelmed you may now feel manageable. Reactions that were once immediate may now be delayed or controlled. These small improvements are signs of growth, and recognizing them builds motivation to continue. At times, reflection may be uncomfortable. It may reveal weaknesses, habits, or attitudes that are difficult to accept. But this discomfort is necessary. It is a sign that you're being honest with yourself. Avoiding it may bring temporary ease, but it prevents long-term growth. Facing it, on the other hand, opens the door to real change. It is also important to follow reflection with action. Simply recognizing mistakes is not enough. A person must make a conscious effort to improve. This may involve setting small goals, reminding oneself to pause in certain situations, or making dua for better control and character. Change happens step by step through consistent effort. Over time, this habit transforms a person into someone who is constantly learning and improving. They do not see mistakes as failures, but as lessons. They do not remain stuck in guilt, but move forward with determination. Their focus shifts from blaming circumstances to refining their own behalf. In the end, reflection is like a mirror. It shows you who you truly are, not who you think you are. And when you look into that mirror with honesty and humility, you gain the opportunity to grow into someone better. A person who reflects regularly does not remain the same. They evolve, improve, and move closer to becoming the person they are meant to be, both in character and in their relationship with Allah. In the end, her story is not just about controlling emotions, it is about transforming the heart. She did not become perfect overnight, and she did not stop feeling anger, sadness, or frustration. But she learned something far more valuable. She learned how to respond instead of react. Through pausing, she found clarity. Through turning to Allah, she found peace. Through choosing her responses, she found control. Through patience, she found strength. Through guarding her tongue, she protected her dignity. And through reflection, she continued to grow. This is the journey of anyone who you need to better themselves. It is not about removing emotions, but about mastering them. It is about becoming someone who is calm in chaos, thoughtful in difficulty, and grounded no matter what they face. Remember, the one who controls their emotions is not weak. They are strong in the truest sense, because they are not controlled by an asset, nor by circumstances, but guided by awareness, faith, and discipline. So take that first step, even if it is small, even if it is just a pause before your next reaction, because every small effort builds something greater within you. And know that every time you choose patience over anger, silence over harshness, and reflection over regret, you are becoming someone better in the sight of Allah. May Allah grant us hearts that are calm, tongues that are wise, and the strength to control ourselves in every situation. Ameen. Thank you, everyone.